Yeah, hi, my name is Corey Glickman, and I'm a systems designer, and I work with governments, policymakers, academia, and private institutions in using systems design and physics and economics to look at large problems. This is actually my third year of doing this. This is a relationship that I've had with Tom and company of really helping to bring out speakers and agendas that discuss the important issues. Where does the intersection of climate, the intersection of policy, the intersection of R&D, and how this actually works at a practical level. So these are the leading thought leaders of science, of policy at the center of the US government. So we really get access to some amazing individuals and to get them speak quite openly and frankly of what's really happening. Well, not surprisingly, the hot topic, it's all about AI. I think what is interesting about this specific group of individuals, pretty much they're the insiders. The key question that really comes down to is AI and, let's say, the use of energy. So we're hearing about policy, we're hearing about ideas. Everybody is on board understanding the impact of AI, whether it is something that is both the solution to helping us advance how we solve for things, but also what are the risks and consequences, not just perhaps does AI take us in the right direction, but how do we support AI? This is about energy decisions. When it really comes down to AI, it comes to two, maybe three issues. The one that we talk about most today is energy. How does this get energized? Where does the energy come from? How will it actually impact the use of energy and how this will have a radiating effect to energy across the country, not just for AI. I think the second area is how does AI impact the community? Do we stay in the loop? How much control do we cede it? How does it become automated? It's really about digitization and the democratization of knowledge and the use across here. There are things that we can only solve with AI, but we're still at the nascent stages. And I think third, most importantly, that's come out of this conference is we have to educate. We can talk about policies, we can talk about advanced technologies, we can talk about the base loads of engineering, but how many of us really understand what does that mean and how does the public understand this? Because ultimately, if the community does not get this, there's one thing about having technology levels of adoption that says, okay, I've achieved this technology, I can solve for these kinds of data sets, I can figure out the energy. But if the communities don't adopt this, it's not going anywhere. There'll be too much questions about the policies across here. It's almost impossible to separate the discussion of energy without energy security and also the competitiveness of other regions of the world. Who's going to win this? Can there be multiple winners? And it's a race. Some people say it's always a war, whether it's a military war or whether it's a knowledge war or whether it's a supply chain war. You're always on where's the advantage? How do you put yourself in the best position? I think that what really hasn't been said, and this could be my own personal opinion because I'm a client scientist, is nobody's talking about the climate implications. We talk a little bit about the baseline of where does the energy come from? Is it renewable? Can we trust wind and solar and other aspects of renewables? But if we always need it on and we have to depend on this in order for the AI to work, we've kind of heard the expression that, well, AI will help us solve this. Maybe yes, maybe no, but not in the short term. It's definitely whatever it's going to take to get that advantage in AI to really proliferate. If it's 120 degrees in Delhi, then it's bad for the whole world. And we don't have 15 years to figure this out. We have 7 years to figure this out, 10 years at most, and that is going to impact communities and population moves across here. There were some excellent discussions about security that is related to climate, whether it's in hurricane zones, whether it is in glacial melt areas, whether it is in viability of protecting the grids. Climate is a big implication of this. We really did not get into the impact of climate. I think the second aspect, which was briefly touched upon, is we certainly heard that the advantage takes place with having great R&D, great academia, whether it's light or heavy regulation. And yet those are the areas that we're being challenged as a society right now in our country. That it's one thing to say we need this, it's another thing to say that we're cutting this all back right now. And that I think also really has not been addressed, other than to say that, yes, we know we need to have it, and at the same time we're hearing, or we at least all know that it's really on the downswing at this point. It's absolutely important to bring these events together. I think when things happen fast, especially the digitization terms such as AI, we can all say that we're using it. We could be using a ChatGPT or a Google piece every day in our lives, but are we users or are we innovators? We will get a base knowledge, we're using it every day. However, these kinds of events allows for real conversations to understand what is the policy, what is the level of the experts, and what are they able to talk about, and really what is their knowledge in education. So having these events are really that step of saying, what is the baseline? And we have to have these conversations, and personally, frankly, a lot of it is the party line, for a better way of saying it, because that's what can be said publicly. But when you do these events, you find that these speakers are very willing to answer the questions. They're willing to invite you into that office to have that conversations. They're saying very frankly what it is that the challenges are and how they're dealing with it, and they're inviting you to get involved. I think the audience here is very good, the participants, and they're asking some of the right questions. I wish they would ask some more questions on here, but these are the conversations that have to take place. We cannot just leave it to say that it's happening and then say, well, I like it or I don't like it. So that's why these events are so important. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And I think I can give a good perspective. I do quite a bit of work in the EU on here, and they're in a different plane of where things are at. As the EU representative talked about, they are not energy rich in resources. So therefore they are dependent on their negotiations and trade negotiations of partnerships in order to get the energy that they need. And they have some tough questions to answer based off of conflicts or prices and agreements across there. I think what was so very important though is that they realized that no matter what they decide to do, they're not going to compromise on green. That is a baked-in table stakes. Decisions have to be made across there, and they will not accept, at least for now, energy solutions that might make sense from a trade perspective that will not also incorporate green. And I think that's a big differentiator right now. I think right now in the US, it is about speed. It's about how to quickly develop an AI or keep an AI dominance across here. There's a lot of competition, which is actually good because competition drives innovation. But I thought that the EU, as many issues as they're facing across there with budgets and how things are structured, the one thing they're not compromising on is green, and they are also leading very much on privacy issues and other aspects, because I think they know, as I also thoroughly believe, that no matter what decisions we make about where does the energy come from, or how advanced we get in AI, if we do not solve for climate, it's not going to make a difference in the next 7 to 10 years because cities are going to change, populations are going to move. So if you're not solving it for the same time, we're just going to repeat the same issues. And instead of 2 degrees, we're going to be talking about 4 degrees 10 years from now. There is hope. I'm an optimist, and many folks are optimists. That's why we care. So there are amazing projects that are happening all around the world. I think to put it in context is this. We looked at very large organizations for the last, 20 years. Nothing against the WEF, nothing against COP, all these areas. But if you truly measure their impact, I think they've become industries on their own, and they've done some good, but they have not really been measured to the impact that there should be. So what naturally happens is smaller groups or initiatives take place that naturally evolve to fill that vacuum. And it's those smaller initiatives that have really, I think, had impact. So for instance, I know Lauren Sorkin, who started the Resilient Cities Network. 15 years ago, now has 186 cities that are helping cities become resilient. That was a grassroots operation that has now become one of the most implementable ways that cities have learned to deal with wicked problems and resilience. I know personally, I now do a lot of work in India that deals with mountain economies and the Himalayas, and using nature-based engineering to solve for things. So we talk about small projects. We've been working for the last 15 years on how to recharge dead rivers simply by using low-tech technologies of, for instance, digging holes in the ground that are GIS planted of where they should be located, and they can recharge aquifers. And by doing so, you can change the biome of the tree sequences, and you can actually reduce forest fires by 40%. And this technology can be exported to LA, it could be exported to South Korea, and this has got 30 years of science behind it, and it can be done with 2 people and a shovel. Now, not everything is that simple, but you can start to look at understanding. You can't control nature in this case, but you can understand how people do interventions with nature, and what is that compromise between hard science with real research, and how technology that is geared for a population can actually have impact. That starts to change the economy. That starts to change adjustments in how we think about research, and it becomes much more tenable for solutions that work at a community level. The number one thing is to understand what a community needs, give them the resources, which may not be a lot. It could just be 2 people. I've done this where I've taken 2 university students and embedded them in a community. We've aligned to some SDGs, we've aligned to some energy needs, and that bit of push over there starts to solve some wicked problems on short timelines, and then that knowledge is shared globally. So there are ways of doing this, and there's numerous examples of where this is working.